Well, I have to try that, I think. So thank you for bringing this together, Donald. And thank you for the introduction. I find it interesting you remembered my suggestions for workarounds. That's because by training I'm an engineer, so I look at these tools and I go, okay, what can you actually do with them if you're going off to do something? For example, the big one in Second Life, I'm constantly trying to explain to people there's a 100 avatar limit in space. If your plan needs more than 100 people in a space, do something else. One involves projects is the Weather Channel, and it's set up, maybe there's 20 people there at a time, but it's been running for almost a year now, and there's always 10 or 20 people there, skiing, biking, surfing. And if you total that up, it actually gets to a huge amount of time people are spending playing, especially compared to things like television commercial that 30 seconds and long. For the most part today I'm not actually going to talk about involved projects. I do work with involved. I'm also not showing involved technology. It's mostly because they didn't fit well on screens. They use basically similar stuff that I've built for them and is great. I'm also not saying any involved opinions, should I say. Anyway, why consider it? Mostly I'm talking about how, but why, very briefly. These worlds, they have something of a built-in population. Gartner said 80% of internet users by 2011 will be in one world or another. And actually, they have a lot of built-in content. You can focus on just the game, build out the part that actually is interesting, and not necessarily work on every prop or anything that you need to stick in there. If you want a couch in the corner, there are couches for sale. They cost 50 cents. Put it there. Also, the users have an identity within the world, and you can work with that. You don't have to build the character for the player. They'll build that and come in. But in terms of actually how, you first have to consider the limits. And there are a lot of them. Why are there limits? Well, part of it's philosophical. The platforms want to be open. They want people to come in and build things. But if you're open like that and everyone's coming in, they have to come up with a uniform set of limits or a uniform policy, because if we have the ability to blow up any object, so does everyone else, and now everything is blown up. So it's a trade-off, it's a barrier. You're not working in a walled garden, as Don pointed out. And there's a continuum through the platforms. Second Life, on one end, which is very open, you don't even need to give them a real name to start creating things, and thus has very significant restrictions. Through Active Worlds, OpenSim, Metaverse, Entropia Universe, there, others along the line, there I can't get them to tell me how much I have to pay them to write on their platform. I've been asking for 2 years. And that shows through in what's created there. Second Life, they can't allow people to actually heal in their combat system, because if they allowed people to heal in their damage system, people would just carry things that constantly heal them. In fact, their whole damage system is basically you have to build your own, but that limit to have any functionality. There, on the other hand, was able to make a deal with Nike to release a pair of sneakers that let you walk faster than any other sneakers in the world. I don't know if that deal has expired, but because of the limits, they could break the rules. So pick a trade-off. If you go too far, you no longer have a social world that you're tapping into. You no longer have the rest of the world. You might as well just get a game engine, because that's what you're trying to build. And that's not what we're talking about. Specific limits, briefly, there's limits on how much resources out of the world you can make up, because everybody may have a chance to vie for them with you. The execution rate, physics rate, how much data you can store. There's actually one very strange limit I call terms of service. There's rules, that you have to obey even if you build your game. And if your game violates the rules, they will come and talk to you. This is things like, again, going back to Second Life, which has the harshest limits here, you can't just push people around without their permission. You can get their permission, you can put up a sign by entering this area, you are consenting, but you can't just, oh, I'm going to start pushing people around. And you will have people that do not want to play that walk wherever your game is. So you either have to build a polite ask them to leave, or build a fence and exclude them. It's like the magic circle in any game. You have to draw the magic circle, and it's not at the login function. And then there's some specific functions that you may want to use, but guess what? You can only move 10 meters at a time. Well, there's little tricks around some of them, but 10 meters at a time. Figure it out. So you have to deal with those. And the easiest way to start dealing with them is to split up a basic architecture. Basically, you have a world and you have a server. And you control the server, and you have to obey the limits in the world. The server, depending on your platform, is a web server, a chat server, a bot server. The world is your platform.